The space around Kepler 442 was filled with alien warships. 200 massive vessels moved in perfect formation through the dark. Each ship was bigger than a city block, covered in thick armor and deadly weapons. The largest ship led the group, a giant called the Dominion's Wrath. It was home to Fleet Admiral Thexra, the most feared commander in the Vorthak Empire. The Vorthak had ruled this part of space for 300 years. Their ships could destroy planets. Their weapons could cut through mountains. No one dared to challenge them. They moved through star systems like they owned them because they did. Admiral Thexra sat on her command throne, watching the stars through the main screen. Her purple skin was covered in scars from 100 battles. Her forearms moved constantly, checking reports and giving orders. She was proud of her fleet. Each ship could fight 10 enemy vessels and win. Together they were unstoppable. Admiral called her second officer, Subcommander Velkar. "We have movement at the edge of the system." Thexra turned her large head toward the tactical display. A single dot appeared on the screen, moving slowly toward them. The computer analyzed the new arrival and showed its details. "A human ship," Velkar said with a laugh that sounded like grinding metal. "Just one small vessel." The bridge crew began to laugh too. Humans were weak creatures from a small blue planet. They had only been in space for a few hundred years. Their ships were tiny and slow. Their weapons were pathetic. The idea that humans would enter Vorthak space was funny to them. "How big is it?" Thexra asked, still smiling. 400 meters long, Admiral. It appears to be a frigate-class vessel." More laughter filled the bridge. The smallest Vorthak destroyer was 800 meters long. Their flagship was over 3 kilometers. This human ship was like a child's toy compared to their mighty fleet. The human vessel continued moving toward the center of the system. It traveled at normal speed, not trying to hide or run away. The Vorthak watched it with growing amusement. "They seem lost," said another officer. "Should we help them find their way home?" "Let us listen to what they have to say first," Thexra ordered. "Open communication channels." The bridge became quiet as they waited. Soon a human voice came through their speakers. The translator made the words clear in their language. "This is Captain Lee Tae-min of the United Earthship Resilience. We are traveling to the human colony of New Sol with medical supplies. We request safe passage through neutral space. Our mission is peaceful and urgent." The voice was calm and polite. The human captain spoke like he was asking for directions, not entering the territory of the most dangerous empire in the galaxy. Thexra could not believe what she heard. This tiny human ship was asking for permission to travel through her space. The captain sounded like he thought this was normal. "Like humans had the right to be here, did you hear that?" Velkar asked, his voice shaking with laughter. "He thinks this is neutral space." The bridge erupted in loud laughter. Officers slapped their hands on their control panels. Some fell out of their chairs. The idea that humans could claim any space as neutral was the funniest thing they had heard in years. "Medical supplies," another officer shouted between laughs. "The mighty human warriors are carrying medicine." Thexra raised one of her forearms to quiet her crew. She was having too much fun to let this end quickly. This was better than target practice. This was entertainment. "Open all communication channels," she ordered. "I want every ship in nearby systems to hear this." The communication officer nodded and began broadcasting on all frequencies. Soon, ships from 3 different star systems would be listening to what happened next. Thexra stood up from her throne and walked to the communication station. She wanted to speak to this brave little human captain herself. "Human vessel," she said in her most threatening voice, "you have entered the territory of the Vorthak Empire. We do not recognize any neutral space here. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed." There was a pause before the human captain answered. When he spoke again, his voice was still calm. "Admiral, we carry medicine for sick people. Children and families are dying from a plague on New Sol. We mean no harm to anyone. We only ask to pass through and continue our mission." Thexra smiled, showing her sharp teeth. This human was either very brave or very stupid. She decided he was stupid. "You mean no harm?" she repeated. "Look around you, human. Count my ships." Another pause. "We see your fleet, Admiral. We still request permission to continue our humanitarian mission." "Humanitarian mission," Thexra shouted, and her crew laughed again. "Do you know what we do to ships that enter our space without permission?" "I understand your position," the human captain replied. "But sick people are dying. We have the medicine they need. Surely your empire can show mercy to those who suffer." Mercy. The word made Thexra angry. The Vorthak Empire had conquered half the galaxy without mercy. They ruled through fear and strength. They took what they wanted and destroyed what they could not use. "There is no mercy in space, human," Thexera said. "There is only power, and you have none." She turned to her tactical officer. "How long would it take to destroy their ship?" "Less than a second, Admiral. One plasma bolt would turn them into dust." Thexera nodded slowly. "But destroying them quickly would waste this perfect opportunity. When would she get another chance to show the galaxy what happened to those who challenged the Vorthak Empire?" "No," she said. "We will not kill them yet. This is too good to waste." She opened the communication channel again. Every ship in 3-star systems would hear her next words. "Human Captain, I am Admiral Thexera of the 47th Battle Fleet. You amuse me. Your tiny ship and your talk of medicine make me laugh, so I will give you a choice." She paused for effect, knowing that thousands of alien crews were listening. "You have 1 hour to entertain us, make us laugh, beg for your lives, show us how pathetic humans really are. If you amuse us enough, maybe we will kill you quickly instead of slowly." The human captain was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice had not changed. He still sounded calm and polite. "Admiral, we are simple people carrying medicine to sick children. We are not here to entertain anyone. We ask again for safe passage." Thexera laughed so hard that tears came to her eyes. This human would not beg. He would not cry. He kept talking about his mission like it mattered, like anyone in the galaxy cared about human children. "Very well," she said. "If you will not entertain us willingly, we will make our own entertainment. All ships surround the human vessel. Let us begin the hunt." 200 Vorthak warships began to move, forming a perfect sphere around the tiny human ship. Each vessel was armed with enough firepower to level a city. Together, they could crack a moon in half. The human ship continued on its course, moving steadily toward New Sol. It did not speed up or try to escape. It did not fire weapons or raise shields. It just kept going like nothing had changed. Admiral Thexera watched the tactical display with growing excitement. This would be a hunt to remember. The recording would be shared across the galaxy. Everyone would see what happened to those who dared enter Vorthak space. The hunt was about to begin. The Vorthak fleet moved like a giant net closing around its prey. 200 warships spread out in all directions, creating a perfect sphere 50,000 kilometers wide. The human ship floated in the center like a tiny fish surrounded by sharks. Admiral Thexera watched from her command throne as her ships took their positions. Each captain knew their job. They had done this many times before with other weak species. The result was always the same: complete destruction. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Subcommander Velkar announced. "Excellent," Thexera replied. She opened the communication channel again, making sure every nearby system could hear her words. "Human Captain," she called out, "look around you. You are surrounded by the finest warships in the galaxy. Each one could destroy your pathetic vessel with a single shot. Together we could turn your ship into atoms." On the bridge of the Resilience, Captain Li Tae-min stood calmly beside his command chair. His brown eyes studied the tactical display showing the alien ships around them. His crew worked quietly at their stations following their training. "They have us completely surrounded, Captain," reported Commander Park Ji-woo, his first officer. Park was a tall man with steady hands and a calm voice. He had served with Lee for 5 years and trusted his captain completely. "I can see that," Lee replied. He touched the communication button on his chair. "Admiral Thexera, we understand your position. We still request permission to continue to New Sol with our medical supplies." The alien admiral's laughter filled the bridge through the speakers. It was a harsh sound that made several crew members flinch. "Medical supplies," Thexera repeated. "You still talk about medicine when you face the might of the Vorthak Empire." "Very well, human. Since you will not beg, let me explain your situation." She paused, enjoying the moment. "You have exactly 1 hour before we destroy you. During that time, you will provide entertainment for my fleet. Perhaps you could surrender and beg for mercy over the open channels, or maybe you could try to run away so we can hunt you down. The choice is yours." Lieutenant Kim Da-eun looked up from her weapons station. She was a young woman with quick reflexes and sharp eyes. "Captain, should I prepare our defensive systems?" "Not yet," Lee replied quietly. "Continue monitoring their ships. Record everything." At the science station, Dr. Song Min-ji worked at her instruments. She was the ship's chief science officer, a brilliant woman who had spent years studying alien technology. Her sensors showed her things that worried her deeply. "Captain," she said in a low voice, "each of their destroyers carries enough firepower to destroy a human city. Their flagship could level an entire continent." "Understood," Lee nodded. "Continue your scans." Tactical Officer Lieutenant Cho Sang-wook studied his displays with growing concern. He was responsible for tracking enemy ships and calculating battle odds. The numbers he saw were not good. "Sir, I count 200 hostile vessels. Their combined firepower is approximately 10,000 times greater than a standard human frigate." The bridge became very quiet. Everyone knew they were facing impossible odds. A normal human ship would have no chance against even one Vorthak destroyer, let alone 200. "Are you afraid?" Lee asked his crew. "No, sir," they answered together. They had trained for this moment. They knew their ship was not normal. Chief Engineer Nam Ho-seok called from the engine room. He was an older man with gray hair and hands stained by years of working with machinery. "Captain, our fusion core is operating at optimal levels. All systems are green." "Thank you, Chief," Lee replied. He did not explain to his crew why that information was so important. Not yet. The Vorthak began their entertainment. Small fighter ships launched from the destroyers and raced toward the Resilience. They flew in tight formations, coming within meters of the human ship's hull. Pilot Yoon Hae-jin kept the ship steady as alien fighters streaked past their windows. The fighters fired warning shots, bright plasma bolts that lit up space around them. Each shot was powerful enough to destroy a human fighter, but they were not meant to hit. "Not yet, steady as she goes," Lee ordered. "Do not change course." Communications Officer Ensign Kang Soo-jin received message after message from the alien fleet. Her face grew pale as she listened to the translations. "Captain," she said quietly, "they are describing what they plan to do to us. They want to disable our engines first, then our life support. They want to watch us die slowly." "I see," Lee replied without emotion. "Continue monitoring their communications." The Vorthak fighters made another pass, coming even closer this time. One fighter pilot got too confident and scraped his wing against the Resilience's hull. The alien ship spun away, damaged by the contact. The pilot screamed over the radio before his ship exploded. Admiral Thexra was furious. "How did a human ship destroy one of our fighters?" Her tactical officer studied the readings. "The collision should have damaged both ships, Admiral. But the human vessel shows no signs of impact. Their hull appears to be much stronger than we thought." "Impossible," Thexra snapped. "Human ships are made of simple metal. Our fighters are built from battle-tested alloys." But the evidence was clear. The alien fighter was debris floating in space. The human ship continued on its course without a scratch. This made Thexra even angrier. She had promised her fleet entertainment, and so far the humans had not provided it. They did not beg. They did not run. They just kept flying toward their destination like nothing was happening. "Bring the fleet closer," she ordered. "Tighten the formation." The Vorthak ships moved inward, shrinking their sphere around the Resilience. Now the nearest enemy vessels were only 10,000 kilometers away. Their weapons were clearly visible, glowing with deadly energy. "Time remaining?" Thexra asked. 30 minutes, Admiral." On the human ship, engineering specialist Lim Jae-hyun worked in the engine room with Chief Nam. They monitored systems that the rest of the crew did not fully understand. The readings they saw made them both smile. "The energy absorption matrix is working perfectly," Lim reported. "Every time they fire near us, we gain power." Chief Nam nodded. "The more they shoot, the stronger we become. They have no idea what they are facing." Captain Lee knew this, but he said nothing. His orders from Earth Command were clear. The Resilience was humanity's first prototype warship, but it was also carrying real medical supplies to New Seoul. The mission came first. The field test would only happen if the aliens forced it. Lieutenant Commander Bae Yoon-seo monitored the sensors from her station. She was watching for any sign that the aliens were preparing to attack with real weapons instead of warning shots. "Captain," she reported, "I am detecting energy buildups in their main weapons. They may be preparing to fire." Fighter Squadron Leader Park Young-min stood ready in the ship's small hangar bay. His squadron of 6 fighters was prepared to launch, but they were waiting for orders. Each human fighter was equipped with experimental technology that had never been tested in real combat. "Not yet," Lee told him over the intercom. "Wait for my signal." Navigation Officer Shin Dong-woo had calculated every possible escape route from their current position. His computer showed that the alien formation was perfect. There was no way out for a normal ship. But the resilience was not normal. 30 seconds remaining, announced the Vorthak Admiral over all frequencies. Have you decided how you wish to die, humans? Captain Lee stood up from his command chair. His crew looked at him with steady eyes. They were not afraid. They had trained for this moment for 3 years. Admiral Thexra, Lee said into his communicator, this is your final warning. We are carrying medicine to save lives. Allow us to pass or we will defend ourselves. The alien admiral's laughter was louder than before. Her entire fleet could hear her response. Defend yourselves? With what? You have one tiny ship against my mighty fleet. You have no weapons that can harm us. You have no shields that can protect you. You are nothing. Lee looked around his bridge one more time. His crew was ready. His ship was ready. 3 years of Earth's best science and engineering had led to this moment. Admiral, he said calmly, you are wrong about humans. You are wrong about our ship. And you are about to make the biggest mistake of your life. The hour was up. Admiral Thexra raised her hand to give the order that would destroy the human ship. She expected to see the resilience disappear in a flash of plasma fire. Instead, she was about to learn why humans had survived and thrived on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. She was about to discover that underestimating humanity was always a fatal mistake. The hunt was ending. The real fight was about to begin. Admiral Thexra had waited long enough. The human captain's words meant nothing to her. One tiny ship against her entire fleet was not a fight. It was an execution. Captain Rixoth, she called to the commander of the destroyer Bloodfang. You have the honor of drawing first blood. Disable their engines with a precision shot. I want them helpless, not dead. Not yet, Captain Rixoth smiled, showing his sharp teeth. He was known throughout the fleet for his accuracy with plasma weapons. Disabling a small target without destroying it was exactly the kind of challenge he enjoyed. It will be my pleasure, Admiral, he replied. The Bloodfang was a massive ship, 800 meters of armored death. Its main plasma cannon could punch through a mountain. Using it to disable a human engine was like using a sword to cut paper. Target their rear section, Rixoth ordered his weapons officer. Minimal power setting. We want to cripple them, not vaporize them. The weapons officer nodded. He calculated the exact power needed to sever the human ship's engines without destroying the crew compartments. It was a delicate shot that required skill and experience. Firing solution locked in, Captain. Fire. A bright blue beam of concentrated plasma shot across space toward the Resilience. The beam was perfectly aimed at the ship's engine section. Every Vorthak officer watched their displays, expecting to see the human vessel drift helplessly through space. On the bridge of the Resilience, Lieutenant Kim Da-Yun saw the incoming plasma beam on her sensors. Incoming fire, she called out. Captain Lee stood perfectly still. All stations monitor and record. The plasma beam struck the Resilience exactly where it was aimed. The rear section of the ship should have melted away like ice in fire. The engines should have exploded. The ship should have gone dark and dead. None of that happened. Instead, something impossible occurred. The plasma beam hit the ship's hull and simply disappeared. The energy was absorbed into the metal itself, causing the entire ship to glow softly for a few seconds before returning to normal. Captain Rixoth stared at his instruments in shock. Direct hit confirmed, his weapons officer reported. But there is no damage to the target. That is impossible, Rixoth said. Check your readings. Sir, the readings are correct. The human ship absorbed our plasma beam completely. Their hull shows no signs of damage. Admiral Thexra watched the same impossible display on her flagship. Her tactical officer, Sub-Commander Kektha, ran the sensor data through the computer 3 times before speaking. Admiral, the human ship's energy signature spiked at the moment of impact. It appears they somehow absorbed our plasma and converted it into power for their own systems. That is not possible, Thexra said, but her voice was not as confident as before. No known technology can absorb plasma weapons. On the Resilience, Chief Engineer Nam Hoseok smiled as he watched his displays. Captain, our fusion core is now operating at 110% efficiency. The energy absorption matrix worked exactly as designed. Dr. Song Minji looked up from her science station with excitement in her eyes. Sir, we just proved that 3 years of theoretical work was correct. We can absorb and redirect energy weapons. The bridge crew remained calm, but Lee could see the pride in their faces. They had all worked on this project. Every person aboard the ship had helped design, build, or test the systems that had just saved their lives. Captain Lee touched his communication button. His voice was still calm and polite when he spoke. "Warning shot received, Admiral. We are continuing to our destination. Please do not interfere with our humanitarian mission." The silence that followed was deafening. Every ship in the Vorthak fleet had watched their most accurate gunner score a perfect hit on the human vessel. They had all seen that hit do absolutely nothing. Admiral Thexra felt something she had not experienced in decades: doubt. But she quickly pushed it away. One lucky shot proved nothing. Perhaps the humans had some kind of experimental shielding. It did not matter. No shield could stop the combined firepower of her entire fleet. "All ships in Squadron 5, she ordered. "Open fire on the human vessel." Full volley. 12 Vorthak destroyers turned their weapons toward the Resilience. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a space station. Together they could reduce an asteroid to dust. Firing, came the reports from all 12 ships. Hundreds of plasma bolts shot across space like a deadly storm. The entire area around the human ship became a brilliant light show as concentrated death raced toward its target. Lieutenant Commander Bei Yun-seo watched the incoming fire on her sensors. "Multiple incoming plasma weapons," she reported. "Impact in 3 seconds," Captain Lee nodded. "All hands brace for impact." The plasma storm hit the Resilience from all sides. For 30 seconds, the small ship disappeared inside a sphere of pure destructive energy. The light was so bright that it could be seen from the furthest ships in the alien fleet. When the energy cleared, everyone expected to see empty space where the human ship had been. Instead, the Resilience floated exactly where it had been before, completely undamaged. Chief Nam's voice came over the intercom with barely controlled excitement. "Captain, our fusion core is now at 150% efficiency. All systems are running better than ever." The impossible had happened again. Not only had the human ship survived a massive attack, it had somehow become stronger because of it. Captain Rixoth checked his instruments again and again. "Admiral, the human vessel shows no damage whatsoever. In fact, their energy output has increased significantly." Admiral Thexra stood up from her command throne. For the first time in her long military career, she faced something that made no sense. Her weapons were the most powerful in known space. They had destroyed fleets, shattered planets, and conquered star systems. They could not even scratch one small human ship. "What kind of technology is this?" she demanded. Sub-Commander Chektha studied the readings with growing concern. "Admiral, it appears the humans have developed some form of perfect energy absorption system. Every joule of energy we fire at them is captured and redirected into their own power systems. Then we use kinetic weapons," Thexra ordered. "Physical projectiles. Metal cannot absorb solid matter." "Admiral," Chektha said quietly, "our ships do not carry kinetic weapons. We removed them years ago because plasma weapons are more effective." This was true. The Vorthak had become so confident in their plasma technology that they had stopped using primitive projectile weapons. Their ships carried nothing but energy-based armaments. Dr. Song worked frantically at her station, analyzing the energy patterns from the alien attacks. "Captain, their weapons all use the same basic plasma technology. Our absorption matrix can handle anything they throw at us. How long can we keep absorbing their fire?" Commander Park asked. "Theoretically?" Dr. Song smiled. "Forever. The more they shoot at us, the more powerful we become." Captain Lee had hoped it would not come to this. His mission was to deliver medical supplies, not to start a war. But the aliens had forced his hand. They had attacked a humanitarian vessel carrying medicine to sick children. "Communications," he ordered. "Open a channel to the Vorthak fleet." Ensign Kang nodded. "Channel open, sir." Lee's voice carried to every ship in the alien formation. His words were calm but filled with quiet authority. "Admiral Thexra, you have now attacked a medical ship twice. You have interfered with a humanitarian mission to save lives. This is your final warning. Stand down immediately, or we will defend ourselves." The alien admiral was beyond rage now. She had been humiliated in front of her entire fleet. Ships throughout the sector were listening to her failure. Her reputation as the most feared commander in the Empire was crumbling with each second. "Final warning," she screamed. "You dare threaten the Vorthak Empire? You pathetic humans think you can challenge us?" She turned to her weapons officer with fury in her eyes. "All ships, full fleet engagement. I want every weapon in this formation firing at once. destroy that ship now. 200 Vorthak warships began charging their weapons. The combined energy signatures created readings that had never been seen before in space combat. They were preparing to unleash enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. On the Resilience, engineering specialist Lim Jae-hyun watched his power readings climb as the alien ships prepared to fire. Chief, if they hit us with everything at once, our core might overload. Chief Nam smiled grimly. No, it will not overload. It will do exactly what we designed it to do. It will give us enough power to show these aliens why they should never underestimate humanity. Captain Lee looked around his bridge one final time. His crew was ready. His ship was ready. The moment of truth had arrived. All stations prepare for full defensive measures, he ordered. After they fire, we will show them what humans can do. The Vorthak fleet completed their targeting solutions. Every weapon in the formation was aimed at the small human ship. Admiral Thexra raised her hand to give the order that would change the galaxy forever. Fire! The space around the Resilience erupted into the brightest light ever seen in the Kepler 442 system. 200 Vorthak warships fired at once, creating a storm of plasma energy that could melt continents. Every weapon in the alien fleet poured destructive force into a single point in space. The human ship disappeared completely inside a sphere of pure energy. The light was so intense that ships thousands of kilometers away had to shield their sensors to avoid damage. The plasma storm raged for 30 full seconds, longer than any weapon barrage in recorded history. Admiral Thexra watched with savage satisfaction. Nothing could survive that much concentrated firepower. The impossible human ship would finally be destroyed. Her reputation would be restored. The galaxy would remember why the Vorthak Empire ruled through fear. Cease fire, she commanded. The plasma storm slowly faded away, leaving spots of light dancing across everyone's vision. Thexra leaned forward in her command throne, expecting to see empty space where the human vessel had been. Instead, the Resilience hung motionless in the void, completely untouched. The ship did not just survive the massive attack, it looked exactly the same as before. Not a single scratch marked its hull. Not one system showed damage. The vessel floated peacefully in space as if nothing had happened. Impossible, Sub-Commander Chektha whispered. No ship can withstand that much firepower. Admiral Thexra stared at the tactical display, her forearms trembling with rage and confusion. Her entire fleet had just fired enough energy to sterilize a planet's surface. The human ship had absorbed it all. On the bridge of the Resilience, Chief Engineer Nam Ho-seok called out readings that made his voice shake with excitement. Captain, our fusion core is now operating at 300% normal efficiency. The energy absorption matrix has converted their entire attack into pure power. Captain Lee nodded calmly. Thank you, Chief. All stations prepare for combat operations. Dr. Song Minji looked up from her science station with wonder in her eyes. Sir, we now have more stored energy than any ship in human history. The theoretical limits have been exceeded by factors we never dreamed possible. The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. They had trained for this moment, but none of them had truly believed it would work so perfectly. The alien attack had just given them enough power to change the course of galactic history. Commander Park Ji-woo turned to his captain. Sir, we have enough energy to power our weapon systems beyond maximum capacity. I understand, Lee replied. He had hoped it would not come to this, but the aliens had left him no choice. They had attacked a medical ship carrying supplies to sick children. They had threatened innocent lives for their own entertainment. Captain Lee touched his communication button for the last time. Admiral Thexra, you have just attacked a humanitarian vessel with your entire fleet. You have shown no mercy to those who seek only to save lives. We gave you every chance to let us pass in peace. His voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath the polite words. Now you will learn why attacking humans is always a mistake. Lee turned to his weapons officer. Lieutenant Kim, you are authorized to defend this ship. Weapons free. Lieutenant Kim Da-eun had been waiting for those words. Her fingers moved across her control panel, activating systems that had never been fired in anger. The energy absorbed from the Vorthak attack now powered weapons that existed beyond current understanding. Targeting the vessel that fired first, she reported. The destroyer Bloodfang. Fire, Lee ordered. What happened next redefined space warfare. A beam of pure concentrated energy shot from the Resilience toward Captain Rixoth's ship. This was not plasma like the aliens used. This was refined nuclear force, focused and controlled through human engineering. The beam moved at near light speed and struck the Bloodfang with perfect accuracy. The destroyer did not explode. It did not break apart. It simply stopped existing. In 0.3 seconds, 800 meters of advanced alien warship was reduced to its basic atoms. The molecular bonds that held the ship together were broken by concentrated energy, beyond anything the Vorthak had ever seen. Where the Bloodfang had been, there was now only expanding gas and particles too small to detect. Captain Rixoth, the most accurate gunner in the fleet, never even had time to scream. The entire Vorthak formation fell silent. Every alien officer stared at their displays in shock. Their instruments showed empty space where a mighty destroyer had existed moments before. What happened to the Bloodfang? Admiral Thexra demanded. Her tactical officer checked his readings 3 times before answering. Admiral, the ship has been unmade. Our sensors detect no debris larger than an atom. That is impossible, Thexra said, but her voice was weak now. She had just seen the impossible happen twice in one day. Lieutenant Commander Bei Yun Seo called out from her sensor station. Captain, the alien fleet is beginning evasive maneuvers. Too late, replied Tactical Officer Cho Sang-wook. He had been tracking every enemy ship since the battle began. Human targeting computers had calculated firing solutions for the entire alien fleet. All targets locked. What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration of humanity's new place in the galaxy. The Resilience began firing in measured, precise shots. Each beam of concentrated energy found its target across impossible distances. Vorthak shields designed to deflect plasma weapons offered no protection against refined nuclear force. Destroyer after destroyer simply ceased to exist. The alien ships tried to run, but Lieutenant Kim's targeting was perfect. She fired once every 3 seconds, and each shot eliminated a vessel that had terrorized this sector for decades. Admiral Thexra watched her fleet disintegrate around her. Ships that had conquered star systems were being destroyed by a single human frigate. Her proud formation was falling apart as captains desperately tried to escape. All ships retreat, she screamed into her communicator.
Full speed to the jump point!
But Navigation Officer Shin Dong-woo had calculated firing solutions for every possible escape route. There was nowhere to run. Fighter Squadron Leader Park Young-min launched from the Resilience with his 6 experimental fighters. Each small ship was equipped with the same energy absorption technology as the main vessel. But when he reached the battle area, he quickly realized his squadron was not needed. Command, this is Squadron Leader Park, he reported. The enemy fleet is... There is no enemy fleet left to engage. It was true. In less than 15 minutes, 199 Vorthak warships had been reduced to expanding clouds of atoms. Only the flagship Dominion's Wrath remained, its engines disabled by a precision shot that left the crew compartments intact. Admiral Thexra found herself alone with her surviving bridge crew, staring at the human ship that had just destroyed the most powerful fleet in the sector. The vessel that she had mocked as a pathetic metal bucket now floated before her like an avatar of destruction. Her communication system crackled to life. Captain Lee's voice filled her bridge, calm and professional as always. Admiral Thexra, you will power down your weapons and surrender your ship immediately. Your crew will be treated according to human military law. The proud Vorthak admiral, who had begun the day commanding a fleet that could conquer star systems, now faced the reality that everything she knew about warfare had just changed. How? She whispered. How is this possible? Captain Lee's answer was simple. You assumed that humans were weak because we seek peace. You mistook our desire to help others for inability to defend ourselves. You thought that carrying medicine made us helpless. He paused, letting his words sink in. You were wrong about all of it. Engineering specialist Lim Jae-hyun reported that long-range sensors detected more Vorthak ships approaching, reinforcements responding to distress calls. Chief Nam began preparing the energy absorption matrix for additional encounters, but Captain Lee was not worried. The Resilience had just proven that humanity was no longer a species to be mocked or threatened. They had sought only peaceful passage to deliver aid to their people. The aliens had chosen to make this a demonstration of human capabilities. The demonstration was complete. The galaxy would never be the same. Dr. Song began analyzing the wreckage for intelligence, while Communications Officer Kang received priority transmissions from Earth Command. Word of the engagement was spreading through quantum relays across human space. Admiral Kim Tae-kyung of the Earth Defense Force appeared on the main screen, her face filled with pride and amazement. Captain Lee, we have been monitoring your situation. 12 more ships of the Resilience class are entering production immediately. The galaxy needs to know that humanity will defend itself. Captain Lee nodded, but his thoughts remained on his original mission. Understood, Admiral. We are continuing to New Sol with the medical supplies. Children are still dying from the plague. As the Resilience took the Vorthak flagship under tow, the balance of power in the galaxy shifted forever. The recording of the battle, transmitted by the aliens themselves during their initial mockery, was already spreading through interstellar networks. Species that had dismissed humans as primitive now watched in awe as a single human ship eliminated an entire alien fleet. The weak had become strong. The hunted had become hunters, but Captain Lee Taemin and his crew remained focused on their humanitarian mission. They would deliver medicine to sick. The debris field that had once been the 47th battle fleet of the Vorthak Empire stretched across thousands of kilometers of space. Clouds of superheated gas marked the final resting places of ships that had terrorized this sector for decades. In less than 18 minutes, 200 warships had been reduced to their basic atoms. Only the flagship Dominion's Wrath remained, floating dead in space with its weapons offline and engines disabled. Admiral Thexra sat in her command chair, staring at the small human ship that had just rewritten the rules of galactic warfare. Captain Lee Taemin's voice filled the alien bridge through their communication systems. His tone remained calm and professional, as if eliminating an entire fleet was just another day's work. Admiral Thexra, your ship will be taken into custody. Your crew will be processed according to human military law. Any resistance will be met with immediate force. Thexra looked around her bridge at the surviving officers. Sub-Commander Kektha was staring at his instruments in shock. The tactical displays showed impossible readings. Energy signatures that should not exist. Weapon technology that violated everything they knew about physics. Admiral, Kektha said quietly, what are your orders? For the first time in her long military career, Admiral Thexra had no answer. She had built her reputation on strength and fear. She had conquered worlds and destroyed fleets, but she had never faced an enemy that could turn her own weapons against her. We surrender, she said, the words bitter in her mouth. On the bridge of the Resilience, Commander Park Ji-woo reported the alien flagship's compliance. Sir, they have powered down all remaining systems. The ship is secure, Captain Lee nodded. Very good. Deploy a boarding party to take custody of their crew. Lieutenant Commander Bae Yoon Seo looked up from her sensor station with concern in her voice. Captain, I am detecting multiple ships approaching from the outer system. Vorthak reinforcements, at least 30 vessels. Understood, Lee replied without worry. Dr. Song, how is our energy absorption matrix performing? Perfectly, sir, the science officer answered. The system is already adapting based on combat data. Each encounter makes us more efficient. Chief Engineer Nam Ho-seok called from the engine room. Captain, our fusion core has stabilized at 200% efficiency. We have enough stored energy to power the ship for months. But the approaching Vorthak reinforcements had received the distress calls from the 47th Battle Fleet. Admiral Morden commanded these 30 ships, expecting to find the aftermath of an easy victory over a single human vessel. Instead, his sensor showed him something that made no sense. The debris field was enormous, but it consisted entirely of Vorthak ships. The human vessel floated calmly in the center of the destruction, completely undamaged. This cannot be correct, Admiral Morden said to his tactical officer. Run a full sensor sweep. The results were the same. 200 Vorthak warships had been destroyed by one small human frigate. The flagship was captured and under tow. The human ship showed no signs of damage or stress. Admiral Morden had heard the recordings that were already spreading across the galaxy. He had listened to Admiral Thexra's mocking words and her promise to destroy the pathetic human vessel. He had expected to arrive in time to watch the execution. Now he faced a choice. He could attack the human ship and likely suffer the same fate as the 47th Battle Fleet. Or he could retreat and report that the balance of power in the galaxy had just changed forever. Captain Lee made the choice for him. Approaching Vorthak vessels, Lee said over the open communication channels. You are entering the site of a battle where your empire attacked a humanitarian mission. We have no quarrel with you, but we will defend ourselves if threatened. Admiral Mordaunt studied the tactical display showing the human ship. It was still small, still appeared defenseless, but the evidence of its capabilities floated all around it in the form of atomized warships. Human captain, Mordaunt replied carefully. We came to assist our fleet. We see that assistance is no longer needed. That is correct, Lee answered. We suggest you return to your base and report what you have seen here. The Vorthak Empire should know that humanity will defend itself when threatened. Mordaunt looked at his bridge crew. Every officer had heard the recordings of the battle. They knew what the human ship could do. Fighting it would be suicide. All ships, Mordaunt ordered. Set course for home base. Maximum speed. The 30 Vorthak vessels turned and fled the system without firing a shot. The story they would tell would spread fear throughout the Empire faster than any weapon. On the Resilience, Communications Officer Ensign Kang Soo-jin received a priority transmission from Earth Command. The quantum relay carried the voice of Fleet Admiral Kim Tae-kyung from Earth orbit. Captain Lee, we have been monitoring your situation through long-range sensors. The entire Defense Council is watching your mission. Understood, Admiral, Lee replied. We are continuing to New Seoul as ordered. The medical supplies are still needed. About that, Admiral Kim said, the Council has authorized me to inform you that production of Resilience-class vessels has been increased to 50 ships. Every major power in the galaxy is demanding to know how you destroyed an entire Vorthak fleet. Dr. Song looked up from her analysis station. Captain, I am detecting communication bursts throughout this sector. The recording of our battle is being transmitted on all frequencies. This was true. The video and sensor data from the engagement was spreading across interstellar networks faster than the speed of light. Species that had never heard of humans were watching a single human ship eliminate 200 alien warships. The Galactic Trade Federation called an emergency session. The Andromedan Council demanded an immediate conference with human representatives. Even the mysterious Void Runners sent encrypted messages asking about human intentions. But Captain Lee remained focused on his original mission. The Resilience continued toward New Seoul with its cargo of medical supplies. The humanitarian mission that had started this whole encounter was still his top priority. Engineer Lim Jae-hyun worked with Chief Nam to analyze the energy absorption matrix performance. The battle had provided them with data that would take years to fully understand. Chief, Lim said quietly, the absorption efficiency improved by 12% during combat. The system is learning and adapting. I know, Nam replied with a smile. The next time someone attacks a human ship, they will find us even harder to kill. Fighter Squadron Leader Park Young-min returned his fighters to the ship's hangar bay. His pilots had launched expecting a desperate battle, but they had found a demonstration of human technological superiority instead. Navigation Officer Shin Dong-woo calculated their course to New Seoul. The colony was still 3 days away, and plague victims were still dying. Nothing that had happened here changed that basic fact. Course laid in. Captain, he reported. Proceed at best speed, Lee ordered. The Resilience moved away from the debris field, towing the captured Vorthak flagship behind it. The journey to New Seoul would give the alien crew time to think about what they had witnessed. Admiral Thexra sat in her quarters under guard, trying to understand how her mighty empire had been humbled by a species she had considered inferior. The recordings of the battle would reach Vorthak High Command within days. The Empire's military doctrine would have to be completely rewritten, but the real change was happening throughout the galaxy. Species that had dismissed humans as primitive now watched the recordings with new respect. The weak had become strong. The peaceful had proven they could fight when necessary. Diplomatic messages poured into Earth from every major power. Trade offers, alliance proposals, and requests for technology sharing filled the communication networks. The galaxy wanted to be friends with the species that had just revolutionized warfare. 3 days later, the Resilience arrived at New Seoul. The colony's orbital stations were primitive compared to the technology aboard the human warship, but Captain Lee docked carefully and supervised the transfer of medical supplies personally. Colonial Governor Park Sun-ho met Lee at the airlock. The older man had tears in his eyes as he watched crates of medicine being unloaded. Captain, the governor said, these supplies will save thousands of lives. Our children were dying and you brought hope. That was always the mission, Lee replied. Everything else was just an obstacle to overcome. The governor had heard the recordings of the battle. The entire galaxy had heard them by now. The news reports say you destroyed an entire alien fleet. The Vorthak Empire chose to interfere with a humanitarian mission. Lee answered simply. We defended ourselves and continued with our orders. As the medical supplies were distributed to hospitals across New Sol, Earth Command sent new orders to the Resilience. Captain Lee was to return to Earth immediately for debriefing and new assignment. The ship that had left Earth as a prototype carrying medical supplies was returning as the vessel that had changed the balance of galactic power. But to Captain Lee and his crew, they had simply done their job. The plague on New Sol was stopped. The medical supplies had arrived on time. Thousands of lives were saved. That the Vorthak Empire now feared humanity was just a side effect of completing their mission. As the Resilience departed New Sol and set course for Earth, long-range sensors detected massive fleet movements.